Experts believe that our culture and environment affect our notion of what is right and what is wrong, in that we learn how to perceive and respond to a given situation. How might our cultural norms, superstitions, or taboos influence our habits, our behaviors, our chances of success? Let's explore a few of these elements, especially those that may have some unexpected consequences upon coming to a new environment. The following discussion and opinions are not meant to single out specific nationalities, but rather they aim for broader thinking and self-awareness. Let's begin a dialogue about what can hinder our mutual success.
All valuable things about culture should be preserved. That is what is beautiful, what is exciting, what is compelling and inspiring, that should be preserved. What ties you back to your roots, that should be preserved. But there are things, of course, that should not be preserved. Practices, for example, that demean people should not be preserved. But you have to adapt. You have to take stock of your circumstances and assess the assets that you bring to this new situation, let's say as immigration, from the perspective of what works for you. Some things just don't work in the new situation, and it's a good idea to put those in the drawer. Emphasize those elements of your culture that are useful.
Come in, look, listen, learn, and then decide what portions of your background, of your experience, that you can apply to the American environment.
We have to understand where we come from. What are our cultural roots? We each wear multiple cultural hats, and those hats influence the way we see the world. And sometimes we come with clarity of perspective, and sometimes we come with blindness.
Do you have any examples of some culture that may hinder success?
You have to live and work in a corridor of acceptable behavior. Behavior that everyone sort of ascribes to. And if you step outside of that behavior, if you are a society that is too focused on the past, if you're a society that is too verbal and too direct in your communication, if you're a society that is too hierarchical and doesn't respond to the needs of the world's people to be more participative and egalitarian, you're going to be penalized.
If assimilation is not to mainstream culture, but rather to the values and norms of the inner city, social and economic mobility will be difficult.
I wound up dropping out of school. I was 17. I went to work, and I was working 90 hours a week, unloading freight, $1.80 an hour, no overtime, which was illegal. The culture accepted dropping out of school far too easily.
Continuing to think and interpret events in the U.S. from another culture's perspective could result in hurt feelings and unpleasant mistakes.
One of the things that hinders success here is that people, I know Latin Americans, and I want to use, well, the term that we use for so many years, third world. They don't look at process as much as they look at people. They don't look at positions as much as they look at people. They don't think that things really work as much by the rules here as they do.
Thinking that everything is free or that someone should help you because you asked them to can bring forth lots of disappointment in the individualistic culture of America, where often the reply is, "What's in it for me?"
Sometimes hindrance will come from our strongest beliefs. If your culture, religion, or upbringing has instilled in you intolerance or hatred of any kind, you may have great difficulty finding success in our highly litigious society. For example, corporations cannot take the financial risk of promoting or even hiring someone who is openly and loudly against a certain lifestyle, a certain race, gender, or another religion. If we are vocal about our strongest passions, but they are passions of intolerance, success will be very difficult in any sector of mainstream American society.
Neglecting your hygiene and appearance in a culture that places great emphasis on eliminating natural body odors can be a big mistake and can affect job opportunities and friendships. Some newcomers try to compensate for their feelings of loss and lack of control with unhealthy habits, self-importance, or abuse of others.
When new immigrants come to this country, we can respect their culture, but not to the extent that that culture puts down the individual rights of any of the members of the family or the community. So if the culture says that women have no rights, women can be victims of domestic abuse, women should be subject to female genital mutilation, those are cultural values that we cannot embrace as a country, because we believe fundamentally in the rights of the individual.
Viewing women as inferior can greatly impede your chances of success.
That's a bad one, because you will work for women. I still count one of the women I worked for as possibly the best boss I've ever had. I'm not going to mention her name because the other one's going to get angry at me. But I still count women as mentors, as excellent bosses, people I've learned a lot from.
Well, we're talking about machismo. What is machismo? Machismo is a word that has entered the lexicon in the United States as particularly, it's like the Black Legend of Spain. It's something that unfairly has been attached to Hispanics and Latinos and people of Spanish and Iberian origin. I mean, there's many societies the world over are machista in that sense. Ancient Chinese, for example, reduced the size of the feet of women. In Borneo, they put these collars in the necks of women to make sure that they can never remove them, and they're subservient to the males. And I mean, there's many ways female circumcision. All these things are expressions of the same phenomenon. But in the world in which we're living today, the 21st century, there is no room for those kinds of ideas of inequality between the sexes, because we know perfectly well that we're the same.
Sometimes the flaws in respective cultural norms speak loudly in proverbs and popular expressions. For example, there's the Australian saying, "The tall poppy gets cut down." In America, if you're doing good work and are proud of it, stick your neck out, get credit for it, get recognized.
And at times it seems almost overcompensation, that you really have to burst out of a shell in order to succeed. You can't be shy and demure.
In Eastern European countries, there's a saying, "Don't show them your teeth. Don't smile, or you may be perceived as gullible." Not so in the U.S., where a smile is anticipated in almost every human interaction.
Sometimes flaws are in the misuse of a word. There's a Lithuanian word, pasisike, which means got lucky. It's used in everyday language to describe why someone was successful, got a good job, a good grade in school, and other accomplishments. Got lucky.
Some misunderstand the word globalization. As the world becomes more westernized, your knowledge of U.S. culture, business, and the English language is just as important.
Negotiation is very straightforward. It's honest, it's precise. You put it on the table, you hold some back, but you put it on the table. You have to adapt to that honesty and that openness. And there's a question of trust. We can't trust them because they don't tell us everything.
American culture certainly is far from perfect. Our highly litigious nature, youth and beauty worship, a disregard for the elderly as compared to other societies, discrimination, too many guns, materialism. This great country of ours is not without its problems.
You can change it,
Letting pride of culture, religion, or heritage overshadow common sense can hinder your chances of success in a new environment. A good question to ask yourself would be, is it physically and morally safe for you and those around you if you don't do exactly as you were taught?
As we strive to become global citizens, think about this. What cultural norms, taboos, or superstitions may hinder your own success? Can you pick one or two that you can overcome this week? Becoming an American is a multifaceted endeavor, one that involves years of cultural, emotional, and social adjustments. Perhaps the most finite step in that process is becoming a U.S. citizen. Since the turn of the 21st century, almost 1 million immigrants each year have sworn their new allegiance. Yet, Many more remain on waiting lists. Naturalized citizens gain important new rights to vote in elections and hold public office. They gain the freedom to travel with an American passport, and they gain the power to petition the U.S. government for immigration visas for their families. Yet rights rarely come without responsibilities. Being an American entails more than just knowing its laws and history. It means active, educated participation, adding your skills and voice to defining this nation's future.
Civic duty to one's country includes upholding the country's laws, paying taxes, voting, and volunteering in your community. To start participating in civics as much as possible, a foreign-born individual first must be in the U.S. with permission. Legal immigration is highly regulated and generally allows a limited number of close family members, much-needed employees, and a fraction of the world's refugees.
Our correspondent, Juan Zavala Jr., met with an immigration attorney in Los Angeles.
What is the best but realistic hope and advice you can offer to those here illegally?
People who are in the United States illegally don't all have the same story, so there's not all a one-size-fits-all kind of answer for that question. But basically, they should explore what they can do through family members, through the visa lottery, through employment to get a green card, and they should do that by finding a good immigration attorney. One good way to find a good immigration attorney is to go through the internet. 200 or 300 immigration attorneys have web pages, and be very careful about the people you select. Read their biographies carefully, and then go to 2 or 3 of them and see what the best advice they can give is.
There are, again, obvious limits to the absorption capacity of migrants in a country. And therefore there are rules, there are regulations, there are laws, there are border controls.
Undocumented individuals cannot be full participants in their civic duties. Consider very seriously any decision to remain in the U.S. after the expiration of your visa. Obey U.S. laws. Some American laws may be different from the laws in your homeland. A brush with the law may be with a police officer who pulls you over as you were driving.
You shouldn't panic. You shouldn't get really nervous. The police are really not horrible people. We're just doing a job. They stopped you for a reason. Wait for the officer to approach you. Keep your hands up on the wheel so that the officer can see that you're not a threat to them. And just wait for the officer to come up and explain what you're being stopped for.
Can you tell us what are the immigration consequences of criminal activity?
The immigration consequences of criminal activity are pretty serious. In 1996, Congress changed the law so that almost any crime that's even halfway serious is considered an aggravated felony and makes somebody deportable from the United States. So you're having the situation where people who've been living in the U.S. on green cards for 20, 30 years are suddenly being caught up in the system and deported back to a country where they haven't been since they were teenagers.
If you have had any kind of problem with the law, if you've had any convictions before proceeding on to the next step with immigration, whether it is to file for your green card or whether it is to get your citizenship, check first, make sure you have the disposition of the court so you know what happened, to be sure, because oftentimes people think they never spend a day in jail, they're fine. Well, make sure what happened in court. Check with an immigration lawyer and see what the consequences would be before you file any papers with immigration.
Remember, having a green card is a privilege. If you don't obey the laws of the United States, you will probably not be here for very long.
Learn English. Full participation in the democratic process is difficult if an individual does not speak English.
Why not learn to speak, read, and write the most popular language in the world?
Pay taxes owed. Taxes go to pay for police and fire protection, schools, defense, roads, and the infrastructure of the country. You and your children benefit from these services. In some countries, taxation is not well tracked or strictly enforced. Not so in the U.S.
What are the immigration consequences of evading taxes?
Well, somebody who evades taxes in the United States not only can get in trouble with the IRS, but can get into trouble with the INS as well. For instance, if you don't pay your taxes and you marry somebody from a foreign country and you want to petition for them to get a green card, you have to show your last 3 years' income tax returns. If you can't do that, it may be possible to get your husband or wife to the U.S., but you're going to have to get somebody to co-sponsor them. If the tax evasion becomes criminal activity, it could also be grounds for deportation.
Become a U.S. citizen. You are usually able to apply for U.S. citizenship after 5 years of lawful permanent residency. 3 years if you marry a U.S. citizen.
So help me God. Congratulations.
To become a U.S. citizen, you must be able to read and write simple English sentences. You must also show that you know about basic U.S. history and government.
Never claim to be a U.S. citizen if you are not. One of the requirements for U.S. naturalization is being a person of good moral character.
It's nice to become a citizen.
Vote. When you become a U.S. citizen, one of your rights and responsibilities is to vote. To be allowed to vote, you must be an American citizen over the age of 18 and must be registered to vote. Do not attempt to vote if you are not a U.S. citizen.
Thank you.
Take care.
Many changes could occur as a result of elections, affecting your health care, safety, job security, finances, and well-being. It's vital that you have a say in those changes.
Lobby elected officials. Being active in making positive changes may also include influencing your elected officials.
Lobbying in a nutshell is picking a good issue and picking a good position on an issue which benefits people. Good government is helping people. The second thing you want to do is to research your issue and develop a one-pager. You want to use this one-pager to build a consensus with private parties, both hopefully proponents and opponents of your position on the issue. The next thing you want to do is to find a sponsor that will take ownership of your position on the issue and sponsor legislation. At this point, you also want to go back to your one-pager and see if the press will do a story that supports your position on an issue.
I think American Constitution is about the most miracle document in human history. Democracy is good. Whatever public likes is the really thing, not the upper level king or the high official people say you cannot do that. This you have to do.
Volunteer to serve in the armed forces. All males ages 18 to 25 who live in the U.S. must register with the Selective Service, an agency which can call individuals for military service, usually in time of war. This includes immigrants with green cards. Many young men and women volunteer for the armed forces and may receive their citizenship faster.
I joined the Navy as a data processing technician. Nobody cared that, I was something of another color, and I was being promoted upon merit. I couldn't be more proud to be who I was, and that was an American.
I joined the Marine Corps because first I wanted to serve my country, and because of its proud tradition, its proud history, and I knew it would be a challenge. I knew it would be tough, and I wanted to give it a try. And I would say to any young person today, whether they wanted to go to try to be a Marine for just a few years or make a career out of it, that after that experience, they're going to come out of it a much better person, a much better citizen, and it's going to make a positive impact for the rest of their life.
Volunteer in your community.
There are many options for community service. Working on a campaign, involving yourself in after-school activities, mentoring, participating in a sports league. It's a way to give back, meet friends, and feel great.
Think of the organizations or individuals who helped you in your early years in the U.S. How can you apply your skills to volunteer your time to help them in return?
One of the challenges that a newcomer faces is that he doesn't realize that he can make a difference. That is the most important thing that they have to learn, that they do not have to accept the status quo. And that very often, it's a few people who are very active that make changes. That's typically the way the world works in a democracy.
Now, based on that, a few questions. Do you donate some time to help your community? What issues are important to you? What are your views on citizenship and civic duty?